Hey folks, Mike Stenhouse with you here for another episode of STEN Reacts. And you maybe noticed that we've used a different backdrop than we have in the past. I'm gonna do away with the bourbon bar and just move to this backdrop. This is a flag I created and designed, and our Adam from our team, Adam the Annihilator, actually made a nice professional image out of it, give it a little rustic look. I actually had it turned into an actual flag. That's an actual flag on a frame behind me, and it's a combination of the U.S. Stars and stripes. It doesn't have the 13 stripes that the U.S. flag has. I think this has 9 or 10, and instead of the 50 stars for the states, we put the Rhode Island Hope anchor and the 13 stars signifying the one of the original 13 colonies. I've talked with a lot of flag experts. It's not a, quote, bastardization of the U.S. flag because it doesn't seek to copy it in every way. We don't have the 13 stripes like the regular U.S. flag does. This one just has 9. But again, it has elements of the U.S. flag, element from the Rhode Island flag and the Hope anchor. And we use this as our coalition flag, our Beachhead Coalition for Freedom that I head up here in Rhode Island. All right, but let's get to STEN React. So today, on this Wednesday before Christmas, December 18th, last night in Chariho, there was a very consequential school committee meeting. Probably flew under the radar. Probably most of you aren't aware what happened. Here is a scene set of that school committee meeting from last night. We're going to play some video from you from a while, but this is the school committee last night, December 17th, and we're watching the official YouTube on it as recorded by the town. All right, what's the significance of this meeting? And I'm going to react to it in just a minute. But before I do that, just a reminder, if you're watching, wherever you're watching this, YouTube, oceanstatecurrent.com, if you want to see all my STEN React segments, go to oceanstatecurrent.com, select Watch from the drop-down menu, and then select STEN Reacts, and the whole menu of recent STEN Reacts have been coming up. I'm going to be hoping to do more of these shorter clips in 2025, STEN React clips. There's so much going on in the news. So anyway, okay. Last night in Chariho, so after the election of this past November, Chariho, as you know, is a regional school district, Charleston, Richmond, and Hopkinton. They have a 12-person school committee. Each of those 3 towns elects 4 people to send to the school committee. They have a rotating system for from which town the chair will come, from which town the vice chair will come. I'm not sure if it goes any more behind that. Well, this year, the new chair after this election is to come from Richmond. Now, this election also saw Republicans or conservatives, if you would, because not everybody runs under a Democrat or Republican label. There are some independents, but they tend to be left-leaning. But 7-5 now. The conservatives now, and they're all very good conservatives, honorable people. I know most of them, or of most of them. And it's one of the few times in this state where you see any government body actually have a majority of conservatives or Republicans. And even more rare is when those Republicans have the courage to exert their influence, or their majority, if you would, to seize and control the power that is duly authorized to them. And that's what happened in Chariho last evening. The results from the 2024 election gave conservatives a 7-5 majority over the liberals on that school committee. Now, that school committee has been pretty much run by liberals for a very long time. The current chair is a liberal, Karen Reynolds. The purpose of this meeting, or one of the purposes of this meeting, was to consider electing a new slate of officers and subcommittee chairs after the election. I want to take you through kind of step by step. This is the second time I've watched this video, we're going to watch some of it again together in just a second. But remember what I said earlier, they have to elect a new chair. The new chair has to come from Richmond by rule. The current chair, Karen Reynolds, is from Richmond, and she'd like to run again. The there was a motion to nominate her to succeed as chair. Apparently, there was some backroom dealing. Reynolds and her team, the Liberal, can't verify this, but we've been told, have contacted some of the Republican members, said it'd be sure great if we just kept some continuity, and you as a Republican, as a new Republican on the committee, should vote for her again to stay as chair. Now, there's one other interesting and complicating, if you may, factor here. One of the Republican board members who was elected, Catherine Colasanti. All right, and I'm going to show you here. She is the one seated right here, the last one at the end of the table on the left, right here. That's Catherine Colasanti at the end of the table on the left side of the U. She announced that she's going to be resigning. Her husband, who had been on the town council in Richmond, was not reelected, and they were looking forward to them both serving the community, but with one off and other family and other commitments she has, she decides she's going to resign. So, and now let's go back a while. Now, let me tell you, I forgot to say this at the beginning. Why are we covering Chariho? Well, we've been covering Chariho for years on my In the Dugout show, on STEN Reacts. We've had Clay Johnson on. We've had Louise Dinsmore on. We've talked about Chariho school issues. We've invited other members of the school committee to come on. Been a lot of issues going on down there in Chariho. We even hosted debates prior to the election. Or candidate forums prior to the election this year in October. We had members of the town council, candidates for the town council, candidates for the school committee on this show. So more than any other school district in this state, we have been following what's been going on in Chariho. And what happened last night would have been newsworthy anyway, as I'm about to tell you. But because we've been following Chariho, we felt that it was our duty just to continue our coverage of that school district, of that town in Richmond and whatnot. Okay, so Catherine Colasanti is resigning. And the reason I bring up the past, because you might remember the debate, I think it was about a year ago, when a prior school committee member resigned. And then there was the question, well, who replaces that resigning member? Is it Clay Johnson, the person who the town council voted to appoint because it was a Richmond person who resigned? Therefore, the Richmond Town Council said, we believe the law says it's within our purview to then appoint the replacement, much like a governor would appoint a senator, like we're going to see in Florida with Ron DeSantis when Marco Rubio becomes Secretary of State. We believe it's our duty as town council to appoint a replacement school committee member. But there was another legal argument says, wait a minute, now we got state law saying one thing, we got local charter law saying another thing. There's another part of the law that says, well, it should be the next person in line. If the top 2 or 3 people get appointed to the school committee, then it's basically that runner-up from the last election who should get appointed. Well, Clay Johnson took the seat. Later, the case was brought to the Rhode Island Superior Court or Supreme Court or whatever, and they said, no, it's the next in line. It's the runner-up. So Clay Johnson was knocked off the school committee, our friend, and Jessica Purcell, who was the runner-up, was appointed. And she's on the committee right now, and she was reelected this year. All right. So the reason that's a complicating factor is Catherine Colasanti, who's the incumbent, who was reelected, she has announced she's stepping down, and that this meeting last night is going to be her last school committee meeting. And by virtue of that law, that was ruled by the Superior Court, the runner-up in this case is Louise Dinsmore, a Republican, very good conservative, who was the runner-up in the 2024 election, and she's going to be taking her place. So the reason this comes into question is, well, when do we vote on, do we wait and vote last night with Catherine Colasanti, who's leaving at the end of the meeting? Do we make these votes and elect these officers, chairman, vice chair, all of those? Or do we wait until Louise Dinsmore joins the committee and let her have a chance to either be nominated for one of these positions or to vote on one of these positions? So like I said, the existing chairman, Karen Reynolds, was put up for nomination, and it went down to defeat. She lost 7-5. So now they had to say, okay, do we have a nomination for somebody else to be chair? And that's when I'm going to share the video with you right now. That's and a little bit of the discussion that followed. But that's when Polly Hopkins, one of the Republican conservatives on the school committee, said, "Wait a minute, I want to make a motion. Let's watch."
That's up to the committee, so that would be separate. So the subcommittee vacancies are noted in red. Those changes can be made at any time for the committee, so that if you
Actually, I'm at the wrong spot. I'm going to go to the right spot right now. Okay, here we go. Right here.
Please. Polly?
I make a motion to table this until the next school committee agenda, with the recognition that this is Catherine Colasante's last school committee meeting, and somebody else will be taking her place. I don't want to see the Richmond voters disenfranchised with that person having the opportunity to take some of the subcommittee seats, as well as have their vote included.
Thank you. I just want to be clear.
All right, now this is the superintendent talking. Now she is aligned with all the liberal leftists and Democrats. There are some liberal independents on this school committee. We're going to go through each member in just a second so you know who's who. But this is the superintendent talking right now, Gina Picard. She is absolutely aligned with the left-leaning members of this committee. And here she is trying to scare, literally trying to scare members into rejecting Polly Hopkins' motion. Listen to what she says.
That the Chariho Act is law. And at this point, as school committee members, if you choose to break the state law, you would no longer be indemnified as school committee members and have to get your own attorneys. If so, someone should move forward to file a lawsuit.
All right. So she had mentioned this before. She had read the state law that says within 10 days of the newly elected members being appointed, the school committee should meet and elect its officers, basically. I'm paraphrasing. Well, first of all, where is the committee lawyer? Every school committee has a lawyer. Every town council has a lawyer they hire to be the solicitor for that committee or that council. John Anderson, I believe, is the attorney. He's not even there. And this superintendent is trying to play lawyer, trying to scare people, trying to bully people, say, hey, wait a minute, you can't table this motion. They don't want to table this motion because they don't want Louise Dinsmore, who's about to come onto that committee, and she's on it right now as you're watching this. This was last night. She's already been sworn in and is on that committee. And they don't want her to be considered as an officer. So they want to get these officers voted last night. Polly Hopkins said, no, let's table it for the reasons I mentioned earlier. And now the liberals on this school committee are in panic, including the superintendent here, Gina Picard. So she's resorting to scaring the members, saying there's going to be legal consequences to you and personal risk. You're not indemnified anymore, which means you could be at risk of being sued and you wouldn't be covered by the school committee's insurance policy or however all that works. She's literally trying to bully them into agreeing to elect officers tonight rather than wait and table it as per Polly Hopkins' motion until the next scheduled meeting in January. Let's continue.
Need to make that clear that any act to violate the Chariho Act is a violation of law. And again, you will not be indemnified as school committee members.
Okay. So again, there's no lawyer there to make that, to back that up. Just because something's in the Charter Act. Now, Catherine Colasanti says, I've been advised by attorneys that it is okay for us to do this. And that's when the accusations start flying. I'm not going to play them here, but I'm going to summarize them for you. That's when the accusations. So Polly Hopkins makes the motion to table the meeting. This is after the left-leaning chair gets voted down. She's out now. Karen Reynolds is out now. She's not going to be the chair for the next 2 years. And what's going to happen is uncertain. And the conservatives on the committee, or at least two of them, Polly Hopkins and Catherine Colasanti, want to wait until the next meeting. So the left starts recognizing, wait a minute now, this is getting dangerous. We're about to lose our power on this committee here. We thought we could strong arm at least one Republican to our side so that we could maintain power, maintain the chairmanship. But no, they seeing it falling apart. So they start throwing around accusations of Open Meetings Act violations that the conservatives have conspired, illegally. And I'll get into that in a second. I'll get into the legality of that in just a second. But they start throwing around all these allegations of Open Meeting Act violations. And again, and again, the superintendent jumps in. Well, you're violating the Chariho Charter Act and it's illegal and we can't have that. Well, you know what? This meeting itself is not even within the prescribed 10-day period. This school committee has already broken the law. As the superintendent, Gina Picard, wants you to, it's well past the 10-day period. I'm not exactly sure when that clock starts, but it's already well past that. And she admits that later in the meeting, apparently. So here she is just throwing out in desperation. Wait a minute. We can't lose control of this committee. Well, you know what? They're going to lose control of this committee. And she just keeps on with the bullying tactic. So what I want to do next, I want to take you to where they actually have the call for a roll call vote. And we'll go around the room and I'll tell you who's who in this committee and tell you how each person voted. Well, you can pretty much probably guess. But anyway, here's that video.
And that is my position.
Craig, please, last.
Move the motion.
Okay,
Move the motion.
so we'll call for a roll call vote.
Now, usually they do a show of hands. All right, how many in favor, and they count them, how many against, they count them. That's what they did before. But this call, he called for a roll call vote because he's saying, I want it to be known exactly who on the record, who voted for to table this and who voted against it. In other words, who are the good guys and who are the bad guys in his opinion. So he's calling for a roll call vote. So as they vote, I'll take you through who they are as they go around the table.
So if you're voting in favor, you're voting to break the Chariho Act.
To break the state law of the Chariho.
Okay,
Right.
right. Donna,
Vote, what is the motion?
To table.
The motion. To table it. No, absolutely not.
All right, so that was Donna Chambers. She is a liberal. I think she's an independent. She's from Charlestown, and she votes no to table the motion.
It's absurd.
Craig,
You can see their panic there. Absurd. What's absurd about waiting till your newest member gets on the committee to vote? Or your newest member might get a chance to run for one of the officer positions herself. To the liberals, that's absurd. Democracy is absurd when they're not in power. You get it? You get it?
No.
That was Craig Luzon. He's also a liberal. He's also an independent. I believe he is also from Charlestown.
yes.
That was Pat Pouliot. She is a Republican. She is from Richmond. She votes yes to table the voting of officers.
Larry,
Yes.
Next is Larry Phelps. He's a Republican from Hopkinton. He votes yes to table.
Yes.
That's Catherine Colasante. She's the resigning member, but she doesn't resign till after this meeting is concluded or the resignation doesn't take effect. She votes yes to table the motion. Don't forget, she's going to be replaced by Louise Dinsmore, who was sworn in this morning on December 18th. I'm going to show you that swearing in photo in just a minute. All right, next we go to Karen Reynolds, the chair here in the middle in the black. It looks like a sweater of some kind.
no.
Yes.
We heard a no and a yes. The no was from the no was from like I said, the chairwoman Karen Reynolds, and then you heard a quick yes. That's from this lady you can't quite see back here on the right. That's Diane Teft. Now Karen Reynolds is the chair. She's a Democrat from Richmond. You heard a quick yes from Diane Teft. She's a Republican from Hopkinton. And of course, I screwed up and hit the wrong button. So let me go
All
back here.
academic, actually,
For over a year, so I think to have people move through different.
Yes.
All right.
Larry,
Sorry, I hit the wrong button there.
Yes.
no.
yes.
Oh, sorry, Donna. Diane,
Yes.
Diane Teft, that was yes. Now we go to Polly Hopkins.
Yes.
Polly Hopkins is a Republican from Hopkinton. Hopkins from Hopkinton.
No,
Jessica Purcell was is a Democrat from Richmond. She was the one who was, the court said should take the seat instead of Clay Johnson after the resignation last year.
Yes.
Laura Chapman, I believe, is a newly elected Republican. She's from Charlestown. Interesting that Charlestown elected a Republican.
No.
Linda Lyall is a liberal, I think an independent, maybe a Democrat, but anyway, a left-leaning from Charlestown. And the last person, Tyler Champlin, is a Republican conservative from Hopkinton. Now, listen, I'm going to go back and play the last few votes and then listen to some of the reaction right after that.
Position. And again, with that said, I did consult an attorney, and that
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I did want to have a discussion.
The Chariho Act, that's up to the committee, so that would.
Yes.
No. Yes. No.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Laura,
Okay.
is it tabled?
You hear that? Oh my God. They're saying, oh my God, we just lost our power. Did you hear that? Oh my God.
Unbelievable.
Did we just table the motion? And someone else yells, unbelievable. This is the left. They say, oh my God. They say it's unbelievable when they're not the ones in power. What you just saw is so rare in this state. What you just saw are courageous conservatives and Republicans actually utilizing the constitutional and local charter authority granted to them to seize power of that school committee. They're going to vote for a conservative chair. Rumor has it, it's going to be Louise Dinsmore, the person who right here was just sworn in this morning as the newest board member. Do you know who that other person is? That's former Congressman Ron Makeley, former president of Bryant University. He's now a magistrate of some kind, and I think that's his title. And that's just from this morning. That's Louise Dinsmore getting sworn in. And from what I am hearing, Louise Dinsmore here is about to be the next chair of the Chariho School Committee, with Republicans having a 7-5 advantage and controlling the school district. And the left can't believe it. They're saying, oh my God, this is unbelievable. But it's happened. Congratulations. We'll see. We'll see if a Louise Dinsmore is indeed nominated and voted in, or somebody else. We don't know. I think it's scheduled for, I think the next meeting is scheduled for January 14th, next year. So we will report. We will see what happens. All right. So I want to get into some of the legal arguments just to close up this reaction today. You heard the superintendent say they were breaking Chariho charter law, that they had to elect officers within 10 days. Well, like I said earlier, the meeting itself was well after the 10 days. So even if they had elected someone last night, they already broke the law because it was already past the 10 days. So once you're past the legal limit, why not push it out another 30 days or so, or 4 weeks, whatever that ends up being. So that's one argument. The other argument is it's maybe a legal argument, and I've consulted some lawyers on this today too. I invited a few to come on with me, and I couldn't find anyone who was available. So I just got their advice, which I'm relaying to you here. Apparently, there's also a moral, semi-legal argument that no law can really totally bind existing or future elected officials. So no law from the past. If they wanted to, they could just vote down that charter law and then vote it in. But it's also a question of morality. That if really in good conscience and you're not doing anything illegal or anything like that if the committee really feels strongly that it's a moral thing to do to wait for the new committee member to come on, and because it is a legitimate argument, whether it holds legal water or not, that's a judgment call. But it is a legitimate argument to say, why not wait till Louise Dinsmore comes on and we can either get her vote currently representing the people, or she herself might want to run for office, as is rumored to be. So that's kind of the legal arguments. There was also this bullying scare tactic of, well, you're going to lose your personal indemnity. You could put yourself at risk as a committee or as someone who voted for tabling this, and you'd have to get your own attorneys, and you'd be in legal peril, and it cost you all that money. That's nothing but scare tactics. Unless you've done something really illegal or something really totally unethical, you could lose your personal indemnity and the liability protection you have as an elected official of that governing body. So that's what I've been advised by lawyers, that it's that she was that this superintendent was way over her skis in saying that. But again, it goes to the fact, where was the lawyer? Where was John Anderson on this? Now, even if he was there, in fact, I'm glad he wasn't, because John Anderson and many other lawyers, we won't mention names here because there's a whole bunch of them, they too are they're not gatekeepers of the Constitution. Many of them are gatekeepers of the liberal left agenda, the woke agenda, the Rollins Department of Education's agenda. And they should be neutral arbiters of the law, of the Constitution. And too many times, we've heard too many stories from too many parents and too many other school committee members or town council members that lawyers are giving them bad legal advice and instead giving them personal political advice based on whatever agenda, usually it's a left-leaning agenda, that they adhere to. This is a problem in our state. We've got lawyers who people trust to give them good, sage advice on the law, on the Constitution, who end up giving them bad political advice. Now, the rumor is on this school committee, this John Anderson, not going to be the solicitor for long. I understand there's a search going on. There'll be law firms being able to put in their bids or lawyers who wants to be the next solicitor. But this, I'm pretty comfortable in saying, based on people I've talked to, this 7-5 conservative majority on this Chariho School Committee is not going to vote to keep a liberal left establishment. Let's support the Rhode Island Department of Education, and we know how crooked they are. Let's not support their guidelines at all costs. So there's probably going to be a change. But anyway, this is where you needed a lawyer to give sage advice. Again, John Anderson probably wouldn't have given sage advice. So maybe it was a good thing he wasn't there. But still, where the hell was he? All right, one more issue to cover up. And that was the accusation made by this first woman we showed you in the picture, Donna Chambers. Now, Donna Chambers, again, is this woman here. Now, she's a liberal from Charleston, as I mentioned to you before. So the way things unfolded, when Polly Hopkins made the motion to table the election of officers until next meeting, and then when Catherine Colasanti spoke up and said, well, I've got a sheet of paper here with some advice, that summarize some notes I took on my discussion with a lawyer, this Donna Chambers spoke up and said, yeah, this sounds like collusion. This sounds like an Open Meeting Act violation. I think we should look into this. This sounds awful fishy to me. All right, so the question is, what does the Open Meeting Act law say? What is a violation and what is not? The purpose of the Open Meetings Act laws, at least when it comes to meetings like this, this issue, is that you don't want people getting together out, if you're going to discuss public issues that involves public money and public, whatever else, and you're a publicly elected official, you should do it in a public and transparent way. We don't want groups of people getting together behind the scenes and conspiring or colluding and are prearranging things about how things are going to unfold at a committee hearing. When I say you don't want groups of people, you cannot have a quorum, which means a majority. So in this case, with 12 members, I'm not sure if a quorum is 6 or 7, but let's even put it at 6. If 6 or more people, whether meeting as a group or what they call a rolling quorum, well, okay, I'm going to talk to you 2 today, then I'm going to talk to those 2 tomorrow, and I'm going to talk to those 2 next week, and that puts it at 6 or more people who are all in on this scheme. That is a violation of the Open Meetings Act. But if only 2 or 3 members talk among themselves, like one person says, hey, I'm going to put in a motion in this, I'm going to put in a motion to table the election of our officers till next meeting. It would be great if you would second the motion because a motion needs to be seconded before it can be discussed and before it can be called for a vote. That's not an Open Meetings Act violation. As long as it's less than a quorum or a rolling quorum. Remember, a rolling quorum is some kind of string of discussions that add up to more half or more of the committee. That's my understanding of the rule as it was explained to me this morning. But it's perfectly fine for 2, 3, even 4 people to talk, to say, okay, we're going to do this. And I'd like your support on this when I get there. As long as it's not prearranged quorum. In this case, the fact that 2 people seem to be on the same page, that's not an Open Meetings Act violation. So if Donna Chambers has any other information beyond that, then she should present it to the committee, or she should present it to the Attorney General to investigate. But again, this just shows the panic of the left. They have now, this is the whole message of this STEN Reacts. The liberals, the woke on this Chariho School Committee are now, they went in thinking that their leader, Karen Reynolds, liberal Democrat, was about to be reelected as chairperson. All of a sudden, in a matter of 10 minutes, she was voted down, and the election of officers was delayed until next meeting so that a conservative, presumably Louise Dinsmore, would be elected as chairwoman. Just think, in 10 minutes, their whole world crumbled around them. And you heard the gas. Accusations of Open Meetings Act violations, intimidation by the superintendent. Oh, you're going to lose your indemnity, put yourself at risk of breaking the law, and blah, blah, blah. And then the oh my gods and the unbelievables comments you just heard. We don't know what's going to happen with the 75 majority in the Chariho School Committee, or with a conservative chairperson, Louise Dinsmore, or somebody else, whoever it ends up being. But we do know that the left has lost their power in their Chariho School District, at least for the next 2 years. They'll probably try to pull some legal magic rabbit out of their hat. We'll see what happens next meeting. And whether we cover it live or we cover it after the fact, you know that we'll be there to cover it. So anyway, I just thought that was a very rare and interesting set of circumstances last night in Chariho. I wanted to share it with you on the STEN React segment. It's a good lesson in local governance. It's a good lesson in Robert's rules, how motions work. It's a good lesson, some of the Open Meetings Acts and other laws that govern these school committees. But mostly, it was a power play by conservatives, courageous conservatives, for once in this state. They stood up for principle. They stood their ground. They won. And I'm pretty sure they will reap the benefits over the next 2 years. So thanks for watching this STEN React segment. Remember, oceanstatecurrent.com, select the watch menu item, then select STEN Reacts from the drop-down, and you can see this and all of my STEN Reacts segment. So until the next time, Mike Stenhouse out. Thanks for tuning in.